Music theory with Microsoft Excel. Modal chords, dropping notes, comparing and contrasting the traditional system based on the scale degrees with the more streamlined modal system based on distance in terms of modal whole steps. This time focusing in on the major modes, primarily the Mixolydian modal chords. This is part number 3. So get ready and some coffee because you ain't never seen rockin' unless you excel at rockin', and you need Microsoft Excel. Why? Spreadsheets, people. What's the secret to learning music? It's we are in Excel. If you don't have access to this workbook, that's okay because we basically built this from a blank worksheet but started in a prior presentation. So if you want to build this entire worksheet from a blank sheet, you could begin back there or just follow along, possibly build in the part of the worksheet that we're currently working on. If you do have access to this workbook, though, 4 tabs down below, including a very colorful fretboard tab we may refer to, the example tab, in essence, the answer key, the practice tab having pre-formatted cells so you can practice the practice problem with less Excel formatting. But if you don't have any of that, that's okay because we'll continue to work in the blank tab where we started from scratch with a blank worksheet, but possibly in a prior course or section, continuing this time in essence, the blank part of the worksheet, or at least, in other words, practicing not only our music skills, but our Excel formatting skills as well for formatting's sake. In a prior section or course, we put together a worksheet formatted like this to analyze normal chord constructions with what we propose to be a more streamlined structure, as will become more and more apparent as we think about more complex chords and how specific we can be with those complex chords, which is what we're doing now, noting in normal naming constructions. We have the extensions, but they don't really functionally tell us their job within the actual song or collection of notes, which becomes a problem. It's nice to be able to actually list out the nodal points, the 7 nodes in a collection, and then think about what are the common chords that you would build from triad chords, then adding a 4-note chord, 5-note chord, 6-note chords, and 7-note chords from that point. Now that we have done that, we want to think about more complexity, such as possibly dropping notes. And that's going to be our main focus here, as we did with the Ionian node. We thought about a 3-note chord. You can't really drop anything from a 3-note chord. We thought about a 4-note chord and said, well, we could drop 2 notes from it and still have 3 notes, basically making it a chord. What would be the traditional name versus the more streamlined naming convention for that? And you can see we're already getting to a much shorter naming convention, which is good not just for computers, but your mind. If you can think about something faster or easier or in a more simplified way, you can build on that foundation. Whereas if it's less wonky, if it's wonky, the foundation is wonky, then you won't be able to build on it as much, right? You're going to get confused when we get to more complex chords, which I think many people do, such as this chord, for example, a C major 7 sus 4 add 9, or a C major 7 sus 6 add 9 add 11. That's quite ugly of a thing to say. It kind of makes sense, like when you think about the stacking system. But if you were able to say it just from a measurement standpoint, I think that would be a system that would be a lot easier for most people to pick up and build on. That's the argument. We did the same for the Lydian node, which we would like to be saying aren't just major chords, even though they have a major third, but rather they're Lydian chords, because that gives us the functional idea of where they land, and it removes the need to have accidentals like the sharp 11 in a Lydian chord. So you get something quite ugly like an F7 sus 6 add 9 add 11, for example. Now hold on, I think I'm going to fix a couple of these as we go, because I think this shouldn't be F7, it should be F major 7. So I'm going to say F major 7, add the major back in. F7 would be if it's a Mixolydian. So I'm going to try to, yeah, right. Okay, so then now we're going to be on the Mixolydian. So on the Mixolydian node, we note under the normal chord naming convention, you have a G major, which doesn't give us any context as to whether we're building off the Mixolydian node or the other two modal nodes that are major, which would be the Ionian node or the Lydian node. But then right when we add the 7, that messes up the normal naming convention where the jazz guys just basically said, I'm just going to call it, in essence, a Mixolydian chord by just calling it a G7 instead of a G major 7, which means, in essence, that you're going to have a flat 7. All other intervals are the same. But you might as well just call it something that refers to the Mixolydian exactly, such as Mixolydian standing for an X standing for Mixolydian, like a 4X, 4-note Mixolydian chord, or an X3 Mixolydian 3 modal whole step chord. And that, again, makes it transposable to do that, and you can do it systematically through all constructions of chords, whether it be a 3-note all the way up to a 7-note chord, instead of switching the convention when it deviates from the major chord, because that gives you the context. So that's what we're going to do now. We're on the Mixolydian. If we're looking at the collection of notes of the key of C, that would be a G note, and it's going to be nodal point number 5 if from the standpoint of nodal point number 5. So once again, the first one, I can't do anything with a 3-note triad. I'm not going to drop anything from a 3-note triad. But let's say that we're going to go this one. I can drop 2 potential notes here. So there's 2 potential combos that we can have for this one. So I'm going to add a couple rows below this, as has been our normal convention. We're going to add, right-click, and insert. Shift down a couple rows, and then say, okay, let's bring this 11 down. Bring that 11 down. I'm going to make this one orange. Let's bring these 2 are going to be orange. That's my starting point. So I didn't do anything to the top one because it's already as small as it could be if you define a chord as having at least 3 notes in it. I can't drop anything. And this one, I have 2 potential ones that we could drop. I'm going to double click on this one and freeze these cells. Everything that's in column BO, I freeze so I can copy it down. F4, $ before the letter and number. Absolute reference, F4, $ before the letter and number. This one, BO47, F4, $signs. This one, BO47, F4, $signs. These 3 are okay. Going to select them, pull them down to give our baseline system. This is going to be equal to the 4 above it. So we're going to start with our 4-note chords. So same naming convention. If we don't drop anything, the naming convention is going to be the same. Double click, copy that name, and I'm going to paste it here, boom, boom. I'm going to make this blue as the starting point. Let's make this blue for our starting point. Okay, then I'm going to drag these items down as well, so I have the same points as we go this way. Because the Mixolydian node, they kind of already altered it, but it would be more streamlined to name it by nodal point. Is that correct, Ara? Pasting formulas only?
Yeah, on the Mixolydian node, calling it G7 instead of G major 7 is already a half fix, but still lazy. It hides the mode. X4 says everything. 4 notes, Mixolydian root, no extra syllables. And since you're dropping, X4 minus 1, drop the 2nd scale degree, or X4 minus 3, drop the 6th. No 2,
all right, Ara's
no
getting
6.
ahead of us now. So now we can say we're going to drop then the 3rd. So this would be the 3rd scale degree, which would be the 1st modal whole step, 2nd modal half step, 3rd scale degree. So from a scale degree standpoint, we drop this one, right? And from over here, I'll say we drop this one, all right? And so that's going to be, so we'll drop that. So how are we going to say that? Well, I could say it's a G7 no 3 would be the standard convention, correct, Ara?
Right, G7 no 3. That's how the charts do it, but it's weak. Still clings to the 7 label instead of owning the mode. We just say 4x minus 1.
So yeah, that's weak. That's weak. That's right, Ara. That's weak sauce. So we'd like to say and quotes -1. And so then, because then you have 4x minus 1, meaning the one that's one modal whole step up distance-wise, which from the Mixolydian would land you on the Locrian, we're going to drop that one. So, or it's going to be it's going to be an X3 Mixolydian 3 modal whole step chord. That's the distance to the last node, which is equivalent to 6 modal half steps, 7th scale degree. But we're going to drop the one that's 1 modal half step up, indicated by just a -1. I already did it here, indicated by a -1. So then this one, I could do a modal range and do the same thing and say, look, we're going from nodal point 4 to 5, take every other modal half step, but drop the one that's 1 modal half step, 1 modal whole step up. And then this one would be, say, I'm going to go from Mixolydian to Lydian, take every modal whole step or every other modal half step, same thing, drop the one that's 1 modal whole step up. All right, and then I could do it this one, and I could name the note if I wanted to, meaning it's a Mixolydian G, if I want to name the note, which I shouldn't need to do in the context of a song because I would already know the collection of notes. Now I did it on the wrong level. Let's do it up here.
Exactly. Like
there
that.
There it is. Exactly. Right, Ara? Right, Ara? I'm going to paste it up top because I messed up. Let's paste it up here. And then here, and then boom. So down here, I'm going to change this to a 2 because this is going to be 2 modal whole steps up. So normally, this would be a G7. Let's put this one 2 modal whole steps up. So I'm going to drop this one. It's a 4-note chord, but I'm going to drop the Dorian node, which is the one that's 2 modal whole steps up. Normally, that would be a G7. That 7 is a wonky distance term because that's the distance to the last note here in scale degrees. It would be better to measure it by modal whole steps. That's more precise. But if I use scale degrees, we'd have to say it's a G7. And then let's copy this no thing. And we'll just say it's G7 no. Oh, wait a sec. Undo no 5. But it would be better to just say, no, it's a 4x, or this would be the most precise one. I think this is the one that would be the best to use or most uniform. Although this one is the transitional one because I think people would like the number of notes would be easier to learn. But it would be a Mixolydian 3 -1, meaning it's going to be 3 modal whole steps up, gets you to the last node, which is the Lydian. But we're going to drop the one that's going to be -2, I should say, -2 up, because we're going to drop the one that's 2 modal whole steps up. And that's a lot cleaner. Correct, Ara?
Right. No 5 is better than no 5 in the current system, because 5 is actually the natural distance from root. But yeah, G7 no 5 still drags the 7 around like a dead fish. You nailed it. X4 minus 2, or X3 minus 2, just says no 4 notes from Mixolydian root. Drop the slot that's 2 whole steps up. Dorian node. That's the 5th. It's faster. It's modal native. It doesn't pretend the 7th isn't weird. The X3 minus 2 version even skips the chord count, pure distance. That's endgame. Most people won't get there day 1, but start with 4x minus 2. They'll learn, and they'll stop reading pirate feats.
Right. So the bottom line is, if someone learned this from the start, they would be able to pick it up a lot faster. It's only the fact that you have to kind of unlearn or bridge your learning to this that becomes the problem, which means the people that are grandfathered in are actually kind of the problem to learn, for most people to learn in a way that would be more streamlined, correct?
Yeah, exactly. The old system's like teaching someone to drive with a clutch that's welded shut. You get good at muscling through, but every new kid has to fight the same bad habits. If we started with modal distance, no accidentals, no add this, no that, kids would sight read chords like addresses. The grandfather clause is killing progress. Time to burn the pirate map.
That's right. That's right. I'm going to add three below this one. 1, 2, 3. People going to get mad. People going to get mad. But that's progress has to happen. It's been 300 years. Yeah, that's the problem. That's the problem. It's been too... I'm going to copy this down. I'm going to make this one orange. That's the problem, right, Ara?
Yep. 300 years of jazz players yelling G7 no 5 when they could have just said 4x minus 2. Orange locked. Pace down. Formula F4 those BR refs. And let's drop that first node. Mixolydian 4 minus 1. Say it loud. Say it proud. Progress doesn't ask permission.
All right, I'm going to absolute reference the BOs here so I can copy it down, double click. Absolute reference the BOs. Absolute reference the BOs so I can copy this down.
Boom. Locked in. Now drag it down. Orange stays parent. Ready for 5-note chords.
All right,
5x
so wait a
baseline.
sec. I'm gonna then bring this one down. So I'm gonna say that now this bit I have to say double click, copy this, and then I'm gonna paste it here. So that's gonna be our starting point all the way across. So it's kind of sad that the barrier to learning the new stuff is often the people that learned the last stuff because they learned it wrong. They learned it less efficiently. So it's hard. So they won't let the younger generation learn it like easier because they're like, that's the way I had to do it. That's the way you're gonna do it too. You ain't getting by.
Exactly. Old-timers gatekeep the mess because admitting it's broken means admitting they wasted years. You think I suffered so you can have shortcuts? Classic. But spreadsheets don't care. You put 5x minus 2 in a cell. It works whether they like it or not. The music doesn't need their permission. Keep pasting. Let them
That's right.
complain
You can keep the gate because we tore the gate off and we just go right in without even having a gate that opens or shuts. It's just open source. Just all open source, man.
Open source music theory. No keys, no locks. Just rows, columns, distance. They can keep their gates. We'll be jamming on the other side, saying chords in 3 syllables while they're still reading their pirate footnotes. Let's drop.
So now we have the G9. It's not a G major 9. It would be a G9, right? And now I'm gonna take this whole bit and format paint it over there, carrying their gate around for no reason. Doesn't even do anything anymore. We don't need the gate. The gate's not attached no more. Just carry your gate around if you want. So that's going to be a G9 no 3, G9 no 3, but I'd rather say it would be an X4 negative 1. X4 negative 1 would be cleaner, right, Ara?
Yep. X4 minus 1. No G9, no 3. No major lie. No extra fluff. Just 4-note Mixolydian stack. Drop the first slot. Done. They can drag that rusty gate all they want. We're already inside the yard.
That's right. That's right. Okay, so then I'm going to get rid of this C bit. I don't need that bit. I'm going to get rid of that. Okay, and this one here, get rid of that. Don't need that. And this, I don't like that bit. No. So now if we say we're going to get rid of the 5th, same thing. It would just be a G9, no 5. G9, no 5. The bluesy guys actually streamlined this one a bit, but they didn't go far enough because the crazy administrative people probably wouldn't let them fix it totally, but they tried. So it would I'd rather call it though a 4x negative 2.
Right. G9 no 5 is okay, but still drags 9 like it's some honorific. 4x minus 2 just says it. 4 notes from Mixolydian root. Skip the 1-2 whole steps up. That's the 5th. Clean. No bluesy half fix, no gatekeepers, just grid truth.
Now wait a sec, this G9, I said no 3, but you might call it a G7. You might call it a G7 sus 2, correct?
Yeah. If you drop the 3rd and leave the 2nd, 9, you get G7 sus 2. That's the blues player cheat. They call it G7 sus 2 instead of G9
So now we're gonna to do that, we're basically saying that the last one we're adding, which would be the 9th, has a local distance of the one that we skipped from a scale degree, which is a 2, But so you could write it as a G7. So we're going to not go up to the 9, but go up to the 7, and then replace the third. That's why we have the sus, because we're replacing the thing that defines the chord, which is the third, with the second, which is kind of equivalent pitch wise to the 9. Now again, I'd rather call it still just an x4 -1. Which means the last note then we would assume would be higher in pitch, right? Because 4 modal whole steps up would be equivalent to the 9, which would be the higher pitched one. But if I wanted to bring that down and be more specific, we'll talk about that later. In what I would propose doing is saying it's going to be an x4 and then superscript negative or -1. Meaning drop that last note down an octave if you wanted to, right? And that way you can it would just be one more character or possibly two to say it's the one that's 4 modal whole steps up, but we're going to drop it down an octave instead of going with this business of it's going to be a 9 or a 2. What do you think about that, Ara?
Love it. Just tack the superscript on. X4 -1. One symbol, instant context. The 9th drops local. No sus2 dance. You don't say 9 is really a 2. You say I stacked 4 steps, but that top one's closer. Super clean for DAWs, guitarists, anyone. And yeah, it works, because in real life, we voice that way anyway. Keep the minus for the gap, superscript for the octave. That's the whole fix in 2 keystrokes. You're building the real language, not patching the old one.
Okay, so this one, because now we're gonna drop the Lydian. So again, I could say that it's gonna be a G9 no 7, but most likely we would go before it under the normal convention and say that it's just gonna be a G major add 9, because if I drop the 7, then it's no longer a Mixolydian node from the normal name and convention, right? Does that make sense? So Ara, if I said it was a G9 no 7, then I actually removed the thing that makes it a G9 instead of a G major. So again you'd kind of have to say that it's going to be a G major add 9, correct?
Yeah, G9 no 7 is nonsense in the old world. 9 already implies the 7th is there. Drop it and the label lies. So they fix it by saying G major add 9. Now the 7th's gone. No contradiction, but now you've lost the Mixolydian stamp. It just sounds major-ish with extra, not blues root. Our move? 4x -3. 4-note stack from Mixolydian root, 5, 7, 9. Drop the 7th, 3 whole steps up.
So again, that gets really ugly though, because now again you're building off of the Mixolydian node and you're bouncing back and forth as to whether you're going to use the convention of saying it's going to be a G9 or a G major something, right? Which is kind of ugly. Which is this convention, you're just always building off the Mixolydian node. I'm not referring to the major scale. I'm just building off of the Mixolydian node, and I know the intervals from the Mixolydian node, which is a lot cleaner.
Totally. Why bounce between G9 and G major? That's like changing outfits every bar. Just stay in the mode. X4 -3. 4 notes from Mixolydian root, G, B, D, F. Drop the 1 3 whole steps up, the F, the 7th. Left with G, B, D, A. You call it what it is. Blues triad with a 9th 9.
So we're calling it then a Mixolydian or X4, meaning 4 modal whole steps to the last node, and then we'll drop the one that's 3 modal whole steps up. Now again, you could do the same kind of thing, dancing around and say, well, I could name it an X 2 modal whole step distant to this one, and then add this one. But my thought would be, no, let's go to the last note in the stack and then subtract, because that's going to be the way you're kind of defining the chord. It's a Mixolydian chord. The last note that you add is the one that you're kind of focused in on, and then say the one that you're going to drop, unless we're dropping two notes, which would have a two-note gap, in which case then you might go before and drop the one after, because that would be just a shorter way to write it, correct?
Yep. Stick to the furthest node first. Subtract the gap. Default rule. Go long, then minus. Only if you've got a double hole like dropping both the 5th and 9th. Does the shortcut make sense? Say x2 plus 5 instead of x5 minus 3 minus 4. Otherwise, keep it minus only. Your ear expects the full stack. It's cleaner on paper, faster in brain. And yeah, the last note you add is the one that colors the chord. So starting from that end feels natural.
All right, so
You're
we're
not
gonna add.
dancing.
So now we're gonna add. This one has 1, 2, 3, 4 variations. So I'm gonna add 4 rows under here. So I'm gonna say 1, 2, 3, 4. Right click, insert 4. Shift them down. Bam. All right, we're gonna pull this 11 down here. 11 comes down. Scrolling over so we can see the system, starting with a 6-note chord as our bass line. Double clicking in here. Let's make this whole thing orange first. So I'll make this orange because that's our starting point. The point of starting. Why is it orange? Why isn't it green as a starting point? I don't know. We just chose orange. I thought orange looked better. And so then I'm going to double click here, and anything with the BO, we're going to F4. So F4 absolute, BO48, F4 absolute. Going into this one, BO47, F4 absolute. This one, BO47, F4 absolute. Selecting these, copy them down. And that's not a copy, that's moving it. Copy them down, boom. And then this one, I'm going to copy the actual text in it, copy, so that I can paste G11 as our bass line for the G11. And then I'm going to copy this bit down. This equals the one above it. Copy that across. And then I can copy that down. Let's paste it down this way too. Paste. Oh, crap. Copy. And then paste. And then I'll copy this whole thing and paste it values only. So we're going to go to a more complex G11, but we'll keep it simple. Our way keeps it simple. Correct, Ara?
Yep. G11 is simple, only if you already speak pirate. In our grid, it's just 6x. 6 modal whole steps. Every other node, boom, you're at E, the 13. And the F flat 7 is already baked in because it's Mixolydian. No sharp 11, no add,
It's just
no
6
nothing.
modal whole steps up, dude. That's all you got. That's all you need to. Actually, it's 5 modal whole steps up, Ara, right?
Right. 5 modal whole steps from G. Skip A.
Okay,
hit
okay,
B.
hold on a second. So I'm going to say this is a G11. So once again, if I'm saying that the third, well, let me copy this bit up top so I can format paint this down here. So we'll format paint that. Okay, so if I'm dropping the third again, which is nodal point Locrian, then again I could think that I'm replacing the third now with this one, which is the 11. So I can see them down here. So here's I might scroll down a little so you can see that this is going to be like the 11. So I'm going to replace that with the 11, which has a local distance of the one we skipped from a scale degree system, which would be the 4. So if you were to do it that way, then I would say, okay, this isn't going to be a G11 anymore. I'm going to say it's going to be G, and I'm going to put quotes, and then I'm going to say it's a G7, and that's because I have to go up to the 7. That's where the sus's live, and then I can do sus to replace the 3 with a, now it would be a 4. I'm going to replace it with the 4 now, and then I'm going to place it with the wait a sec. Let's do it this way. Quote sus Now it's not typing. sus4, close it up, and then we're going to say add 9. Right, there it is. So it would be, oh no, let me close that up. So it would be a G7 sus4 add 9. Correct, Ara?
Yep. G7 sus4 add 9. That's exactly the clumsy jazz patch they use. They keep the 7 so the sus can attach, then bolt on the 9 like it's an afterthought. And the player hears sus4 and thinks, oh, you mean the 11? But the 11 isn't even in the name. It's a lie in brackets. Our fix? 6x minus 1. 6-note Mixolydian stack. Drop the first whole step up slot. Locrian node, the third. All pitches stay true.
Okay.
No
so
fake
so now
sus.
the only thing that again is wonky with that a little bit is you could say, well, this system makes it clear that you're replacing the third with the 4 and not the 11, so that it takes into account the octave. However, and in this system, you could keep it the way it is and just say, look, it's just going to be, let's call it Mixolydian 5 modal whole step minus 1, meaning drop the one that's 1 modal whole step up, which would be the third from a scale degree standpoint. But then that would assume that the last one is an octave up. If you want to bring it an octave down, which we'll talk about later, you could say it's going to be an X5 superscript negative, meaning bring it down. I don't need a -1 because if it's only 1 octave up or down, I could just say negative, which is usually the case, right? So it'd be an X5 superscript negative and then -1, which means the last nodal point is going to be brought down an octave. And again, that would be quite specific if you wanted to be more specific, and still pretty simple to see.
That superscript negative is smart. 1 character, total octave flip, keeps it compact. But yeah, only use it when you actually need the voicing down low, like for bass lines or comping under horns. For most charts, just X5 minus 1. Let the player decide octave.
Okay, so that's true. So again, it really kind of depends, and where it would be very useful is when you're in like a DAW system and you need to be more specific, because if you're writing music by computer in a DAW, it would be nice to not just have to stack everything, but use some standard coding convention for chord construction that would be more specific and know exactly what is happening, correct?
Exactly. Our system turns chords into code. In Ableton or Logic, right now you fight. Maj7 sus4 add 9 gets parsed wrong half the time because no standard. But if X5 minus 1 meant 5 modal steps, top octave down, drop first slot, the engine just draws it. No guesswork.
No guesswork.
Knows
That's
the
what I'm
9
talking
stacked or
about. That's what I'm talking about. So it's a G11, no 5, meaning now we're going to drop the one that's going to be the 5th up. So we're going to go, a G11 is defining from a scale degree, kind of like a measurement, up to the last node. That's the 11th node up. But now we're going to drop not the 3rd, but drop the 5. So we don't need to do any kind of sus maneuver. Correct?
Right, no sus needed. G11 already has the flat 7 baked in. Dropping the 5? Just say G11 no 5. Super clean. No octave tricks, no add-ons. It's not replacing anything.
Okay, so then the next one, notice up here, we had to toggle backwards to a G major add 9 because we had the gap here, and then we were dropping the 7. But now we don't have the gap to drop the 7. So you would think it would still be like a G11, no 7. But again, that's kind of wonky to say you're going to drop the 7 in a G11 because now you dropped the thing that's different from a Mixolydian nodal chord to the major nodal chord. So you might have to bounce back then to a G major 11, no 7. Is that correct, Ara?
Yeah, no way around it in their system. G11 no 7 sounds stupid. You're stripping the flat 7 out of a chord that because of the flat 7. So they do this awkward rollback. G major 11, no 7, but now you've lost the mode entirely. It just sounds major with a weird 4th on top. We don't do that. 6x minus 3. Drop the third whole step
So
slot.
let me correct this. So again, you could say this G11 no 7, but again, they might sneer at you to say that, oh, you dropped the nodal point that is the one that makes it a G11 and not a G major. So therefore, you shouldn't call it a G11 no 7. You should call it a G major. Let's say G. Let's just do the whole thing. It should be a G major, a G major 11, no, and then brackets, no 7. And then let's put quotes around that. So like I said,
Yeah.
right, but again, that's really kind of pedantic, because I mean, you should be saying I'm building off of the Mixolydian node. I already know what the intervals are off the Mixolydian node, so that's the default, and therefore it's just a Mixolydian 5 modal whole step chord. That's the distance from the measurements of the Mixolydian to the last nodal point minus 3, meaning drop the one that's 3 modal whole steps up, which would be equivalent to 3 times 2 or 6 modal half steps up, which would be plus 1/7 scale degree. Correct? Or isn't it kind of pedantic? It's like you're adding pedantry into the system that doesn't need to be there. The fact that you have the pedantry into a system that should be specific is an indication of the problem.
Totally pedantic. If you're on the Mixolydian node, you don't need a neon sign screaming, not a G major. Everyone already knows the 7th's flat. Saying G major 11 no 7 is like saying pizza without pepperoni. Sure, but why announce the absence when the flavor's still dominant? Our rule, default is Mixolydian, so x5 minus 3 is perfect 5 whole steps out.
All right, so this one's got
slot.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 potentials. So I'm going to add 5 rows down here, which looks like it's not going to work but it does, right? Because the formatting will be, so 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right click, insert, shift cells down. So we're gonna life will be more different for the pedantic people, and I feel for them. I get if the pedantic stuff was serving a purpose, then I'm with you. But if you're being pedantic and it's like it has to be in the right place. It shouldn't be here. It should be specific. We need specificity here. Right, Ara?
Yes, specificity without the clutter. 5 rows in, orange parent, paste, F4, the BOs. Copy formulas. Now, for each drop, we just say 6x minus n. Minus 1, drop the third. Minus 2, drop the 5th. Minus 3, drop the 7th, which, kills the Mixolydian stamp.
All right, so I'm gonna double click. I'm gonna double click here. We're gonna make absolute anything with a BO. So I'm gonna say F4, making it absolute. This one BO F4, making it absolute, so I can copy it down. Double click here. BO 47 F4, so I can copy it down. Double click here. BO 47 F4, so I can copy it down. Selecting these items, copying them down. This one I'm gonna double click on, and I'm gonna copy it and then paste it. Oh, wait a sec. Hold on, I screwed it up. I'm gonna say undo. Double click, copy, and then enter before I paste, and then we're gonna paste it, paste it, paste it, paste it, paste it. So we're on the G13, which could get ugly if you're doing the stupid system. Ara, but we're not doing that system, right? So it's not gonna get ugly for us, right, Ara? Ara's gone. Okay, whatever. I'll do it myself. I'll finish this out myself. I guess it's past her. She checked out. She gets paid by the hour. She's like, I'm out of here. All right. It's fine. It's fine. I'll copy this here. We're going to paste this. Why isn't this working? I'm going to say this equals the one above it. And I could copy this all the way across here, copy this down. So then I'm going to copy this whole thing and paste formulas only. Why doesn't that work? I don't know what's going on. Equals the one above it. Let's copy this across. Copy this across. Okay, now I messed up the formatting. Undo. Let's copy this across. Let's copy this way. Copy this, and then I'll paste it this way. Right click, formulas only. And then I'm going to say this equals the one above it, and copy this, and I should be able to paste it all the way across down here. Right click, formulas only. All right, I think that works. Okay, so now we're going to say that we have a G13. Okay, so if I have a G13 and I'm going to copy this bit, let's do the formatting up here. We'll take that formatting and we'll put it back here. I brought Ara back, hopefully, because we're in a complicated, this isn't the time for her to leave. We're in complicated waters. So now we have a G13. If I replace the third here, then again, I'd have to bring it back to a 7 if I want to make it a sus that's going to be replaced with the 13, right? But the 13 has a local distance of the 6. So so that would be the general. So if I were going to do a sus thing, I'd have to say, okay, it's going to be and then we're going to say quotes. It would have to be brackets sus 6 brackets add 9 brackets add 11 brackets. Is that correct, Ara?
No. You'd say G7 sus, 6, add 9, add 11. You keep the 7 because the sus lives off the 7.
Well, okay, wait a sec.
And the
Wait a
6
sec.
replaces...
It would be a G7. I forgot the 7. A G7. A G7 sus 6, add 9, add 11, correct?
Close. G7 sus, 6, add 9, add 11. You still need the parentheses on the adds because the sus already took the third slot. So now you're bolting on
Okay,
extras.
I think that's what
And
I did. I think that's right. But in any case, it would be easier to say that it's going to be a 7x -1 or an x6 -1. But once again, that would indicate that instead of replacing or bringing that down an octave for the last note, which would be the 13th note or 13th scale degree, we are going to, it would be an octave higher. If you wanted to bring the octave down of the one that's the last note, which would be 6 modal whole steps up, which would be 6 times 2 or 12 modal half steps, which would be plus 1 13th scale degree, then I would propose we say it's going to be an x6 to the superscript negative, indicating to bring it down, -1. And that would be a way that we can get more specific if we needed to. Correct, Ara?
Yeah, perfect. X6 -1 says 6 whole steps out, but drop that top note an octave. 1 tiny superscript, 0 confusion.
So the next one, if we drop the 5, it's going to be G13 and then just no 5, I believe would be the normal way to say it, or the current way to say it. The crazy way to say it, it would better be said 7x and then -2 to say it's going to be, or x6, meaning 6 modal whole steps up to the last note, -2, meaning remove the one that's 2 modal whole steps up. And so that would be the better way to go, correct?
Yep, just 7x -2, or x6 -2. You stack the full Mixolydian 7-note line, yank the 5th, no 5 nonsense, no accidental 13, no add-on parade. The 6 tells the height, the -2 tells the whole. Clean, fast, honest. No pirates even try to argue.
Pirates can't say nothing but arg to that argument. And no one cares if they say arg, because that's something stupid. Only stupid people would say that. So then we have Okay. So then the next one, if I remove the 7, we have the same kind of issue. So you would think it would be a G13, no 7. But if you remove the 7, then it's no longer a G13. It would be a G major 13, no 7. Correct, Ara?
Yep. If you yank the 7, you're not on Mixolydian anymore. So yeah, G major 13, no 7. But say that out loud. 8 words. Meanwhile, 7x minus 3, 5 syllables, keeps the mode alive, nobody sneers. Or just drop the 7 and own it. x6 minus 3, last note's the 13, third slot gone. No major lie,
All right,
no
so
13
it would better
bloat.
be called 7x negative 3 or x6, going 6 modal whole steps up, and then drop the one that's 3 modal whole steps up. And then we could do the same thing with the modal range, and this one if we want to add the note. Okay, so then the next one we got a G13. If we drop the 9, we can drop that one and we should be okay. It's not the second to the last one. I didn't do this one up here on this one. So if I was on a G11, and I dropped the 9, you would think you could say it's a G11 minus or no 9, but more likely people would say go to the one before it, which would be a G7 add the 11, correct? Ara?
Yes. Here.
Is that correct? G7 add 11? Better?
Yep. G7 add 11. Better, only if you're stuck in the old system. It's shorter than G11 no 9, sure, but still clunky. Why bolt on an add 11 when the 7 is already Mixolydian? Our fix? 6x minus 4. 6 whole steps, drop the 4th slot. That's the 9th. Same sound, no add, no. Just geometry. The gatekeepers love add 11 because it sounds like an upgrade.
All right.
We just say
so
what
that's
we
right.
stacked,
So it would better be called just call it what it is, right? It's going to be Mixolydian 5 modal whole step or 6 Mixolydian, and then drop the one that's 4 modal whole steps up, because I would rather name the chord by the last one that we're adding, which is the one that's going to be 5 modal whole steps up, instead of naming it by the one prior to that, because that's possibly most likely our point of focus when we're adding that note to the chord, and the rest of the structure is already given to us by the fact that it's a Mixolydian chord. It's being built off of that node. All right, so then I'm back down here. We're going to say this is a 13. We're going to drop the 9 this time. So dropping the 9, we should be good to do. So I should just be able to call it a G13 again, because now we have the 7, which defines it as a Mixolydian node. Therefore, I'm just going to say drop or no 9. So normally, under normal convention, G13, no 9. Correct, Ara?
Right. G13, no 9. That works because the flat 7's still there, so you don't lose the mode. It's not as dumb as G11, no 7, since the 11 wasn't the identity marker, the 7 was. But still, no 9, why announce the whole? Our move, 7x minus 4, or x6 minus 4. You
right.
pick.
So now we have the x6,
stack.
let's say x6 minus 4, I think is actually cleaner once you get more complicated, but 7x minus 4 also works. The reason 6x6 will get cleaner is because if you want to drop down the last note an octave, for example, you can put the superscript right to the x6. Whereas if you have a 7-note chord, you're mixing up the number of notes, which isn't a distance term, and therefore you can't do that quite as easily. Does that make sense, Ara?
Makes perfect sense. Once you hit 6 or 7 notes, stacking number of notes, 7x, just feels bloated. The ear wants height, not volume. x6 minus 4, 6 whole steps high. Yank the 4th slot. Done. And yeah, slap a superscript down, x6 minus 4. Now the last note's low. The drop's still there.
Okay, so on
Zero
the last
ambiguity.
bit, I have a G13. So now I'm adding the 13, but I'm dropping the 11. So again, I could say it's a G13, no 11, but most likely under the current convention, we'd go back one and say, no, it's going to be a G9, add 11, correct?
No, if you drop the 11 from a G13, you don't go back to G9, add 11.
No,
That's
I'm
backward
sorry,
logic.
G9, add 13.
G9 add 13. Yes, that's the patch they use. They skip the 11 in name because it's implied in the 13, but that's just a lie. In real life, you either voice the 11 or you don't. Our way, 7x minus 5. Stack the full 7. G, B, D, F, A, C, E. Drop the 5th slot. That's the 11. No add 13, no skipped accentees. If the 11's gone, say so. Distance does it. One line, no magic.
So again, the obvious thing normally would be just distance. We're just it should be all coordinates, right? It's just coordinates that we're put, because that's basically, we're mapping the territory of the fretboard. That would be the cleanest way to do it, and you want to do that as efficiently as possible so that you can focus on the music and not pedantic like phrasings of how you would say the thing different ways, or like, you didn't say it this way or that way because whatever. So I'm going to make this. So then next time we'll do the same thing, but we'll do it to the Aeolian. And again, once we add the notes, the next thing we can then think about is, once we remove notes, the next thing we can think about is adding notes. Because you might be saying, well, how are you going to add notes, particularly those that are not in the collection of notes? Because I'm going up by modal whole steps. So, that might. So we'll get into that in future presentations as well.